So, hello, and welcome to day 19 of my leukemia journey. I guess I should name it properly if that's what I'm dealing with. Um, Today was a nice, easy day at the clinic. I did get chemo and wrapping up actually cycle 1A of chemo, so that part is good. Again, the side effects have been nuisance, but not much more than that. They're taking great care of me. My wife's taking great care of me. For the most part, I feel stronger and better every day. Some new medications will drop the energy level a bit. I find my biggest concern is my own fear. I make these processes worse than they are, from a blood draw to a spinal puncture. I make the manageable unmanageable, and this is manageable, at least so far. Again, I'm new. Um, the good news about me getting better is it's less work for PJ. The more I can do, um, more time she gets to not be my full-time caregiver. And that's all the motivation I need. My trick is to not overstep and overdo. So far, I've been pretty good about that. They gave me a ton of steroids today, and they told me I might not sleep. It's 1 in the morning, but I'm sleeping, and I've already had an hour and a half nap. In fact, um, two main topics today. Today was Cinco de Mayo, and I wore my official Cinco de Mayo shirt. Not your average cancer warrior. They got a kick out of it in the waiting room. I don't see anybody wearing anything like this or doing anything like this. So I don't know if it's me being a new person to this and just coming in a certain way. This is also an extension of my personality. I embrace anything that I'm put in, or, what do they say? A bloom where you're planted. Not the best soil in there, but the other piece is from Stuart Scott's speech at the ESPYs, his Jimmy V speech. He said, "You don't beat cancer by living or dying. You beat cancer by," and I'm quoting this badly, by being who you are, how you live, and you don't let it change who you are along the way, regardless of what the outcome is." And that is completely inspiring for me. It's moved into my top 5 speeches and could have crawled into the top 3. Jimmy V's being, of course, absolute number 1, and number 2 being Winston Churchill's speech that was immortalized, again, re-immortalized by Iron Maiden. We will never surrender. And that fits just as well as those first 2. So fear is an issue. So, but that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. What I wanted to talk about today was, excuse me, patients in this situation. When you get diagnosed, you go right into treatment. You don't really have time to process it. You don't have time to do the emotional work that it takes. You think you're okay or you think you're sick, and then the C word comes up or the L word comes up, and immediately you have to go into decision-making mode. And there's no time for the stages of grief that are necessary. And even worse than that is you move right into notification. So you have to grasp something that you don't really even understand yourself. He told me I had leukemia. I looked it up on Wikipedia 5 minutes after we walked out of the room. What did I know about leukemia? I had no idea. I wasn't even sure it was cancer or of what. I've worked in the medical profession a long time, but the mental health side, I didn't know a lot about cancer, except that you didn't want it. So I feel a shift coming on with me, and I'll get more into that a little later. The other thing that doesn't happen is the staff, particularly the nursing staff, don't have any outlet. They break the news, they do the frontline work, they're with you every day, whether it's a blood draw or giving you medication or whatever, and they don't have any outlet for this. Now, working in mental health for 33 years is tough. You got to have a place to go. You got to have somebody you can talk to. My wife and I both work in the field, so we're a support for each other. But I also have a support network of peers that no matter how bad things get, somebody kills themselves, somebody relapses, somebody has an act of violence, kills somebody else, somebody gets grievously injured on the job, there's a mechanism, where we can be there for each other and support each other and help each other. There's none of that. We work very hard in our project through the university to bring trauma-informed care to the psychiatric hospitals. It's not in a cancer unit, and it needs to be there. In one case, one of the staff, she explained that her father was on the cancer unit where she worked, and of course, she was forbidden from working with him directly, obviously. He died. She was pregnant at the time. In fact, I believe she gave birth to her child 5 days after the death of her father. How much stress is that? I can't wrap my head around it. And any supports that she has were made up by her, whatever she happened to have around at the time. And of course, by her own admission, she was a hormonal disaster, and she did, I just couldn't imagine those things. And she has PTSD, as evidenced by there are rooms that she does not want to go in the hospital where she works. There are certain types of reports she does not want to hear. The avoidant part is, I mean, I'm not diagnosing her formally, of course, but you see that the evidence of it that's there, and certainly a trauma worth, PTSD. And of course, that missing ingredient in PTSD, what makes trauma into PTSD is a feeling of betrayal, that something happened that shouldn't have happened, or something that should have been done wasn't done. So I made a promise to myself that if they get me through this and get me to the point where I'm healthy, functioning, independent again, I'm going to go back and volunteer there. And I don't know if the volunteering will look like, not a licensed therapist in Pennsylvania, but if I function as a volunteer, and, I'm sure there's a way we can arrange that. I would like to make myself available to work with people that have just gotten the news that no one wants to get, that I've gotten, just to help them process. Because what can you do? You don't have any control. It's not like, but just to be able to process it, to get the ball rolling, to think about the business of it, which is communicating it to people and making decisions, but also the part that has to be in here, the part where you got to be okay in your own head. And also dealing with where this overlaps with pre-existing trauma. My mother died of cancer in the same hospital that I was diagnosed with cancer in. Could that have been potentially traumatic? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've done a lot of therapy work, as I mentioned before, and of course I do therapy, but it leaves a mark. And there are other people that probably have a lot deeper wounds that I have. And then you throw this on top of that, and it's just, it's like your leg isn't healed from breaking the first time and you break it again. So that's really, really, really bad. So somewhere between working with patients, people that have just been diagnosed, and doing a support group for the staff, just giving them an option of having a place to talk about this with their peers. It seems needed. They seem open to it. And it seems to me a very reasonable give back for them, giving me back my life and my health. Seems like a fair trade to me. And again, you've heard me rant about my Buddhist beliefs before. There's a thing called a bodhisattva, and a bodhisattva is someone who will go to the very edge of enlightenment, but will not cross until everyone else crosses. My own interpretation of that is someone who is at a burning building and they're just standing by the door, throwing people out the door as they come by. You just grab them and you snatch them out, even though you know where the door is and you can leave. You don't leave until that last person has been tossed out the door, and then you leave. To me, that's what a bodhisattva is, as I've always translated into mental health and addictions. And it seems like cancer isn't much different. Again, I'm new. Um, Sometimes new eyes are good eyes. The other piece, just to end with something a little lighter than that, was today was Cinco de Mayo. And I knew it's like, okay, so Cinco de Mayo, and I'm headed to the cancer unit for some chemo. Yeah, this is great, right? This sounds like a party waiting to happen. They didn't have any margaritas there. I did ask. But they did do Mexican food in the cafeteria. So I got a lovely burrito in the middle of the day. And I don't know, that made it, that and the shirt, of course, made it festive. Okay, is there something really wrong with me? Are the drugs really catching up with me? Or did I just say hanging out in the chemo unit was festive? But I don't know. There was joy there. I don't know how to explain it. Um, I guess that, any light in the darkness, right? But it was fun. They loved the shirt. I got to show off the shirt. Um, had my lovely burrito, and things went easy today. So there's a lot to be grateful for about. Um, I post. I if I don't know how much sense this makes, but I post pictures regularly about how I'm doing on my Facebook page. So if people are interested in that, um, they can. I'm fine with having um, Facebook friends specifically around this issue. Um, Actually, this is kind of almost all I'm posting about at this point because this is what's going on in my life. Normally, I try to do some funny stuff and there's some political stuff, but um, maybe just a page just for the cancer stuff. I don't know. Or I'll probably my page is going to be cancer stuff as long as I'm in recovery. Um, so this stuff is going to be all up on YouTube, and there will be pictures and things like that on Facebook that go along with it. That'll correspond to the dates. So I don't know if that's helpful. Again, my goal is survive, get my life back, and find a way to turn this into a silver lining for others. That's what I'm here for. Uh, that's how I maintain who I am through cancer, through leukemia, and with whatever time I have left, whether it's years or months or weeks or days. That's my goal. I don't have control over that, but I have control over how I go about things. That's what I have control over. And I want to put all my energy there so that I would live the way I want to live, regardless of what the external circumstances are. That's kind of where things are. And the way I want to live right now is to get 8 solid hours of sleep. I have 3 days off from the hospital, and then that next day, Tuesday, is going to be a beatdown. So I want to come in there rested and ready for whatever they throw at me. And again, being aware, going back to what we were saying before, I'm probably making it worse more than it is. It's two transfusions, which are nothing. And then the big challenge is putting the port in. The port is what they put in right around your collarbone to so that they can put medication in you and take blood out of you, going through a little mesh surface instead of going through your arms and blowing up all your veins, which happens. So as much as a port kind of sucks, it's embedded in your skin, it goes right into I guess, a vein. It saves a lot of trouble. It's one big process rather than 200 small ones over and over and over again. The problem is that I need to be able to have the platelets to withstand it, or I will just bleed. And then I got another problem. So I didn't end on a light note. I meant to end on a light note. But anyway, 3 days of rest. I'll get to catch up on my schoolwork with my students. and get better. That's the long and the short. So good night. Thanks as always for watching and for listening. And I will tune in tomorrow. Probably not going to be too many exciting reports over the next couple of days, although I did tease the prayer blanket. So the prayer blanket's going to happen tomorrow. I finally have to do that. So good night. Catch you tomorrow.